Welcome back. I'm here with our next business contributor, guest expert Steve Gavatorta, founder and CEO of the Steve Gavatorta Group, a business communications coaching company. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Good to be back.
I'm thrilled to have you, really. This is good stuff. Okay. Why do we boomers need help from you with communicating with Gen Y? They're our kids. We already know how to reach them, even in a business setting, right? I mean, and even if we don't, what's the big deal?
Absolutely.
What's going on here?
Well, first, I do believe people are struggling with communicating with Generation Y. There's several studies that have proven that. A lot of my clients are struggling with Generation Y as well.
Interesting.
And I really found two areas that for the importance of communicating with them is, number one is building credibility. I'm a firm believer that any successful relationship is based on the foundation of trust. Communication is the pathway to trust. And if you're not communicating, connecting, and effectively interacting with Gen Y, you're not going to establish trust. Hence, you're not going to have any credibility with them as well, too.
That certainly makes sense.
Absolutely. And if you're not having credibility, you're not going to be successful in selling to them. You're not going to be successful managing them, leading them, and so on and so forth. And if you're not successful in those capacities, it's going to affect your bottom line if you're a business owner or if you're working for a company as well, too.
Okay, so it affects your credibility if you can't communicate well with these kids.
Correct.
Sorry, kids, but you are kids. Sorry, Cedric. And it hurts the bottom line if you can't communicate with them. Now, go on a little bit more about that. How does it hurt the bottom line?
Sure. If I'm in a sales role and I'm selling to someone and I'm not communicating with them effectively, they're not going to buy from me, and that's going to hurt my sales. Mm-hmm. If I'm in a leadership role or a managerial role, if they're not listening to me, if I'm not being effective as a manager to them, they're not going to respond as a team or as individuals, and that's going to hurt overall productivity. And the worst thing could happen is you could lose them, and that costs the bottom line as well, too. Anytime you turn an employee, that's very costly to an organization.
Sure, and I would think that there's a lot of, we might think that a lot of the Gen Y kids or young people are not worth saving, but there's a lot who are. I mean, there's a lot who are gems. And if you're not developing them, you are going to be hurting your company's revenue.
Absolutely. There's a lot of what I call diamonds in the rough. Those are people that managers may not be connecting with that are true stars. And if the falling out of not connecting and being able to interact with them is hurtful, and you never may find out who those diamonds in the rough are.
Sure, because you're going to lose them.
Absolutely. Who can close sales for you, who can close technological gaps, solve a problem for your customers, things of that nature.
And let's face it, this is your next generation in the business. These are the next folks in the business world.
Without a doubt.
So if you're not bringing them along properly and developing them and coaching them through proper communication, you're just hurting yourself.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. So what do we do? What's the best way for boomers to be communicating with Gen Y?
Absolutely. I have a simple 5-step process. First and foremost, as I said, any successful relationship is built off of trust established. So the first thing you can do is establish and build trust. Be a person of your word, follow up, be a trustworthy person, but also be trusting as well, too. The second step, a good way to build trust, is to establish empathy. Take the initiative, try to understand them from their point of view, walk in their moccasins, so to speak. The best way then to build empathy is to ask questions of them, listen to what they're saying. And when I say ask questions, it's ask questions to get to know them. It's not closed-ended questions that get a one-word response. Really listen to them and hear what they're saying and understand where they're coming from.
Right.
Then as they're talking, observe them and adapt to their behavior. If someone's introverted and shy, don't ridicule them or don't think they're not motivated. That just may be their behavior or communication style. And in turn, communicate with them that way as well, too. Don't try to be run roughshod over them, so to speak. Then lastly, keep the lines of communication open. Always have an open door policy for them to come to you and you to come to them. And it's perfectly okay for you to tell them your needs in communication as well, too.
Right. And this goes back to what you talked about last week, dialogue versus monologue. Stop talking at them and start talking with them. Exactly. I would also, we only have a few more seconds, but I would also think that understanding the differences between how I think and operate as a boomer versus how a Gen Y a person thinks and operates will help me. That might be a good foundation.
Without a doubt. And that's why I talk about empathy, questioning and listening, seeing where they come from. We come from a different background, so to speak.
Right.
And there's nothing right or wrong where they come
our kids.
Yeah.
So what's coming up next week?
Exactly. We're going to learn a little bit more about questioning and listening skills.
Very
Absolutely.
good. All right. Terrific. If you want to follow up with Steve or ask him a question, you can reach him by phone. That number is 813-908-1343, or you can email him at steve@gavatorta.com. To learn more about his company, go to the website, gavatorta.com. And we'll also have his information on our website, boomerradioshow.com. And we'll talk to you next week, Steve.
Sounds great.
Bye-bye.